I used to believe choices defined who we are. That every decision, every fork in the road, shapes the person we become. But that was before the night I met him. The night I learned that sometimes, it's not our choices that change us. It's the people we meet in the dark. Boston after midnight has its own heartbeat, steady, restless, pulsing beneath the neon glow. The kind of night that feels too alive to sleep, too empty to feel safe. I worked the late shift at the Ember Room, an upscale cocktail bar where money flowed faster than morals. It wasn't where I imagined I'd be at 27. But life doesn't care about your plans. 3 months ago, I was an accountant, one of the good ones, until I exposed my boss for cooking the books. And he buried me with a single phone call. Now I serve drinks to the same kind of men I once audited. Men who see waitresses as decor, not people. The air inside the bar was thick sweat, perfume, liqueur, and lies. The music throbbed through my skin, matching the dull ache in my feet as I carried another tray of glasses through the crowd. Somewhere between the clinking and the laughter, I told myself I'd only stay until I found a real job. A lie I'd been repeating for weeks. Then I heard it, a voice smooth and deep enough to cut through the noise. "You're new here." I turned, expecting another drunk, regular with too much confidence and too little charm. But it wasn't a customer. It was the man behind the bar, not Marco. The usual bartender, but someone I'd never seen before. He looked out of place in a room like this, sharp suit, sleeves rolled up, dark hair slicked back just enough to look effortless. There was a stillness about him, the kind that draws every pair of eyes without him having to say a word. He didn't smile. He just looked at me, really looked, and for a second, the noise around us fell away. "Yeah, I managed. Started last week." He nodded slowly, his gaze never breaking mine. "You're doing fine." He turned back to the bottles, pouring drinks with a precision that felt too polished for someone pulling a night shift at a bar. The movement of his hands was smooth, controlled like someone used to power, not service. "What's your name?" he asked. His tone casual, but there was something in it, curiosity. Maybe. Or something darker. "Isabella." I said, "Isabella Art." He repeated it, soft and deliberate, as if tasting each syllable. "Isabella." He didn't offer his in return. I should have walked away. Should have gone back to my tables and left it at that. But something about him, the way everyone else seemed to avoid his end of the bar, the way even the bouncers glanced over before looking away, kept me rooted there. Then, without looking up, he said, "Your tables are waiting." It wasn't a dismissal. It was an order, quiet, but absolute. And I obeyed before realizing it. The night dragged on. A blur of fake laughter, spilled drinks, and aching feet. But every time I looked toward the bar, he was there watching. Always watching. By the time my shift ended, it was nearly 3 in the morning. The air outside was cold, the kind that bites straight through your jacket. Boston streets glistened with rain, empty except for the occasional passing car. I pulled my coat tighter and started walking 20 blocks home. The same route I always took. That's when I heard it. Footsteps. At first, I told myself it was nothing, just my imagination, a trick of the city. But the sound grew louder, faster. I turned. "Hey, wait up." My stomach dropped. It was one of the regulars, the drunk who'd spent half the night trying to get my number. "Jimmy, go home." "Jimmy," I called, quickening my pace. "I'm tired. Come on. Just one drink." He slurred, stumbling closer. "I know a place that's still open." His hand clamped around my arm before I could react. Don't be like that, he murmured, leaning in too close. You've been teasing me all night. Le trop, I said sharply, yanking my arm back. But his grip tightened. Then headlights. A sleek black car rolled up beside us. Engine purring low. Like it belonged to someone used to control. The rear door opened. And a voice came from inside, calm. Steady. Commanding. Is there a problem here? I froze. It was him. The man from the bar. Jimmy turned. Annoyed. Mind your business. Pal. Get in the car. Isabella. The way he said my name quiet. Absolute made my pulse stutter. It wasn't a request. It was protection disguised as dominance. Before I could think, my feet were already moving. The bodyguard in the front seat stepped out. Silent. Efficient. Jimmy hit the pavement in seconds, without understanding how. The door closed behind me with a soft click. Inside, the car smelled of leather and expensive cologne. Luciano sat across from me, yes. I finally knew his name now. Murmured by the driver. When we pulled away, Luciano De Luca. Up close. He was even more disarming, sharp jawline. Dark eyes that felt like they could strip you bare. And a kind of still power that filled the silence between us. Thank you, I said, voice unsteady. But I could have handled it. His lips curved. Just slightly. I'm sure you could have. He leaned back, studying me. You shouldn't walk alone this late. Not much of a choice. I muttered. There's always a choice. He said. You just haven't been offered the right one yet. I stared out the window, unsure how to respond. Every rational part of me screamed to get out. But when he spoke again, I couldn't look away. Where do you live? He hesitated. South End. He nodded once. Gave the driver an address mine, without me saying another word. I didn't ask how he knew. The ride was quiet, except for the hum of the city. I could feel his eyes on me. Not in a predatory way, but like he was memorizing me piece by piece. When the car stopped outside my crumbling apartment building, embarrassment hit hard. Peeling paint. Broken mailbox. Flickering lights. He didn't say anything. Just reached into his jacket and handed me a card. If you ever need something, he said, call this number. I hesitated before taking it. Why would I need something from you? His gaze was unreadable. Because life is unpredictable. Isabella Art. And everyone eventually needs something. Our fingers brushed as I took the card. That same jolt sharp. Electric raced up my arm. By the time I looked up, he was already looking away. Signaling the driver, the car door opened. Cold air rushed in, snapping me out of whatever trance I'd fallen into. Good night, he said simply. I stepped out. The car pulled away, disappearing into the fog. Inside my apartment, I locked the door and leaned against it. Heart still pounding. The city outside was silent again, and I should have felt safe. But all I could think about was the way he'd looked at me, like he already knew I'd call. Morning came too fast. So did reality. The pounding on my door wasn't from dreams this time. It was my landlord. 2 months behind on rent. No grace period left. I promised money I didn't have. Made excuses. I didn't believe. When the door finally slammed shut, I sank onto my couch and stared at the card, still sitting on the table. Plain white. A single number embossed in silver. Luciano De Luca. The smart thing would have been to throw it away. Forget the car. Forget the man. Forget the way my heart had raced when he said my name. But smart choices had never gotten me anywhere. My fingers hovered over my phone. I didn't even realize I'd dialed until I heard a click, and his voice, Isabella. Just my name. Low and certain. Like he'd been expecting the call. Init hip? I said, hating the tremor in my voice. I know. He replied. How much? He blinked. Stunned. What? How much do you need to make the problem go away? It wasn't a question of if he'd help, just how fast. I told him the number before. I could stop myself. 6,000. There was silence. Then it'll be delivered this evening. Stay home. Wait. But the line went dead. That night, as the city sank into rain again, a knock came at my door. A man in a dark suit handed me a sealed envelope and left without a word. Inside, stacks of cash, crisp and cold, and a business card for Blackstone Financial Group. An interview scheduled for Monday. For a long time, I just stared at the money, relief mixed with fear, until I couldn't tell the difference. Because no one helps like that. Not without wanting something in return, but when I finally crawled into bed, my thoughts circled back to the man in the black car. His eyes, his voice, the quiet command that made the world slow down, and for the first time in months, I didn't feel powerless. I felt seen. That was the night I stopped running from danger and started running toward it. The world looked different on Monday morning. Brighter, sharper, like someone had quietly turned up the contrast on my life. I'd slept maybe 3 hours, but adrenaline carried me through the glass doors of Blackstone Financial Group. Marble floors, mirrored elevators, suits that cost more than my rent. I didn't belong here, and everyone knew it, except they didn't treat me like an outsider. The receptionist smiled, like she'd been waiting for me. My supervisor shook my hand a little too long. The HR manager congratulated me before I'd even signed the papers. Every door seemed to open on its own. Every name I mentioned already knew mine. It should have felt like luck. But it felt like choreography. Like someone had written this moment for me, and I was just reading the lines. By lunchtime, I'd memorized that feeling, the subtle hum of invisible power. And beneath it all, I could feel him. Luciano De Luca. His name echoed in the corners of that office, like a ghost. I didn't see him, but I felt him everywhere, in the way people's voices dropped when I walked by, in the way the manager avoided my eyes, in the way my desk sat by the window. Alone, perfectly placed. That night, as the city lights flickered across my apartment wall, I whispered the truth to myself. He wasn't just saving me. He was placing me exactly where he wanted me. And I didn't know whether to be grateful or terrified. 3 days later, I received a text. No name. Just dinner. 8 o'clocks. Donatos. The address was one of the most exclusive restaurants in the city. Of course. I went. When I arrived, the hostess led me past velvet curtains and a dozen empty tables, straight to a private room in the back. Luciano was already there, sitting alone, sleeves rolled up, a glass of red wine untouched before him. Isabella, he said softly, standing as I entered. You came. I wasn't sure it was a request. I replied, a faint smile. It wasn't. For a moment, neither of us spoke. The silence between us wasn't awkward. It was charged. Every second stretched thin, humming with something unspoken. Dinner came and went in fragments. He asked about my new job, what I thought of the people, the office, the pace. He listened more than he talked. And when he did speak, every word carried weight. What is it you actually do? I asked finally. His gaze lifted from his glass. Sharp and calm. I protect what's mine. That's not an answer. It's the only one that matters. I wanted to push further, wanted to know why powerful men whispered his name. Why his driver carried a gun. Why I felt safer and more in danger with him than I ever had with anyone else. But he leaned closer across the candlelight. and the question died on my tongue. Some things are better learnt slowly, he said. Rushing only ruins them. His tone wasn't warning me. It was promising me something. Something dark. Something real. And when his fingers brushed mine across the table, I didn't pull away. I didn't want to. The following weekend, he called again. This time, it wasn't a dinner. It was an invitation. My father wants to meet you. The words made my pulse skip. We drove out of the city, through winding roads that cut into the hills. Luciano's estate looked like something torn from another century's stone walls. Fountains. Manicured gardens that felt too perfect to be real. Inside, the air smelled of polished wood and old money. And waiting in the great hall was Don Matteo de Luca Luciano's father. He was older, colder, but the same intensity ran through him like iron. When he shook my hand, his eyes measured me. So this is the girl, he said. No smile, no warmth, just assessment. Isabella Art, I said quietly. Courageous, he murmured. My son doesn't bring many people here. That says something. I couldn't tell if it was a compliment or a threat. Maybe both. Dinner was quiet. Formal. Suffocating. Luciano barely spoke. His father did most of the talking about loyalty. About sacrifice. About the cost of family. At one point, he turned to me and said, "Family is everything, Miss Hart. And family requires loyalty." I smiled politely. But my stomach twisted. It didn't feel like conversation. It felt like a test. When the meal ended, Don Matteo stood, kissed my hand, and said, "You're welcome here any time, as long as you understand who we are." As the car pulled away from the estate, I turned to Luciano. "What was that?" He didn't answer. "You let me walk into an interrogation." He stared straight ahead. Voice calme. He needed to know you weren't afraid. Afraid of what? Me. That single word settled heavy between us. That night, back in the city, I couldn't sleep. My mind replayed every moment the way people at the office treated me. The ease with which doors opened. His father's eyes dissecting me. Pieces of a puzzle I didn't want to solve. By dawn, I couldn't stand it anymore. I grabbed my coat, drove to his apartment, and banged on his door. He opened it wearing a black shirt. Sleeves half rolled. Eyes dark and unreadable. "Isabella." I stepped past him before he could object. "Are you going to tell me the truth? Or do I have to find it myself?" He closed the door behind me. Silence. "Are you part of the Mafia?" I asked. The words tasted absurd and dangerous all at once. For a long time, he didn't answer. Then he poured 2 glasses of whiskey and handed me one. "My father built an empire of fear," he said quietly. "I've spent my life trying to turn it into something real." "That's not an answer." "I don't hurt the innocent," he said. "But I protect what's mine by any means." I searched his face for lies. There weren't any. Just exhaustion. Pride. And something that looked a lot like guilt. "You think that makes it okay?" "No," he said. "It makes it true." I set my glass down. Heart hammering. "So everything, the job, the money, it was all you?" "Yes." "Why?" He stepped closer. Slow. Deliberate. "Because you were drowning. And I could help. That doesn't give you the right to control my life." He smiled faintly, not cruel. Not amused. Just said, "I'm not controlling it, Isabella. I'm protecting it." "From what?" "From the world. From men like my father." His voice softened. "From men like me." I wanted to hate him. I wanted to walk out. Slam the door. and pretend the last 2 weeks were just a fever dream. But his honesty cut deeper than any lie could have. He reached out, brushing his thumb against my jaw, tracing the line of my throat, like he was afraid I'd vanish. "You're safe with me," he whispered. The words were gentle, too gentle for a man who could kill, with silence. And I believed him, even though I shouldn't have, because in that moment, safety didn't feel like distance. It felt like surrender. He leaned in slowly, giving me every chance to pull away. He didn't. When his lips met mine, the world tilted. The taste of whiskey and danger, mixed with something softer, need. Maybe. Or hope. His hand slid to the back of my neck, holding me there, like he was afraid to let go. The kiss wasn't hungry. It was claiming. Quiet. Reverent. Inevitable. When he finally pulled away, I was shaking. "Now you know," he said softly. I looked at him, this man of power, of violence, of impossible tenderness, and every warning in my body whispered, "Run." But he didn't move. Because maybe love isn't about choosing what's safe. Maybe it's about choosing what you can't walk away from. It had been 2 weeks since I learned the truth about Luciano De Luca. 2 weeks of pretending I could separate what he was from who he was to me. Logic told me to run. But logic never stood a chance against the way his voice softened when he said my name. Or how his hand found mine as if it belonged there. Still. Part of me couldn't ignore the shadows that followed him, or the ones beginning to follow me. That's how I met Detective James Moretti. He waited for me, outside Blackstone one evening, leaning against a car that looked too ordinary to be harmless. "Miss Hart," he called, holding up a badge, like it could protect him from the storm he was about to walk into. I almost kept walking, but his tone, weary, patient, certain, made me stop. "I'm not here to arrest you," he said. "I'm here to warn you." I crossed my arms. "About what? About who?" He corrected. "Luciano De Luca." The sound of that name in someone else's mouth made my stomach twist. He continued, voice low but sharp. "You think he saved you? Don't you, from your landlord? From debt? From the dark? But he didn't save you. Isabella. He recruited you. That's not true. Isn't it?" He took a step closer. "His family runs half the docks in this city. They launder money through firms like Blackstone. They buy judges. Silence journaliste. Make people vanish. You think those paychecks are clean? You think that job just appeared out of nowhere?" I opened my mouth, but nothing came out. "He's not your savior," the detective said quietly. "He's your story, waiting to end badly." I wanted to scream that he was wrong, that Luciano wasn't like them. But I could still hear Luciano's words in my head. "I protect what's mine by any means." The detective handed me his card. "If you ever decide you're done living in his shadow," he said, "call me." Then he looked at me not like an officer, but like a man who'd seen this ending before. "You have no idea what you're protecting." That night, I drove to Luciano's penthouse. Every part of me wanted to turn back, but fear and anger pushed me forward. When he opened the door, he looked almost relieved, like he'd been waiting for me. "You've been talking to someone," he said quietly. It wasn't a question. "A detective," I said. "James Moretti." He didn't move, didn't blink. Just stilled, like a storm holding its breath. "What did he tell you? That you use me? That I'm just another piece on your board? And do you believe him?" "I don't know," I whispered. "I want to." He exhaled slowly and turned away, walking toward the window, the city lights burning against his silhouette. "Haven't come near you again?" he said. Something in his voice chilled me. "Luciano. Don't." He turned, eyes dark, controlled, terrifyingly calm. Then he shouldn't have touched what's mine. The words landed like a blade between us. I'm not yours. I snapped. You don't get to decide who I talk to. He closed the distance in 2 steps. I don't decide, he said. I protect. You have no idea what people like him can do. And you do, yes, he said simply. Because I've done it. For a hard bit. Neither of us spoke. Then something inside me broke anger, fear, and desire tangled into something raw. I shoved at his chest. You can't control me. He caught my wrist, not rough, not gentle, and for a moment, we just stared at each other, breathing hard. Then stop letting me, he said, voice low, trembling with something he didn't want to feel. I should have walked away. But instead, I kissed him. It wasn't soft. It wasn't sweet. It was a collision, desperate, furious, inevitable. His hands tangled in my hair. My fingers gripped his shirt. And the space between us disappeared. It felt like drowning and breathing at the same time. When we finally pulled apart, I whispered against his chest. I hate you for making me need you. He rested his forehead against mine. And I hate myself for needing you back. Later that night, he drove me to his oceanfront home, a place I'd only heard about in passing. The city disappeared behind us, replaced by crashing waves and the smell of salt. The house stood silent, surrounded by fog and the sound of the sea. Inside, the world felt quieter. Luciano poured wine, but neither of us drank. I sat by the window, staring out at the water. When he finally spoke, I wasn't supposed to meet you, he said. My men were following your boss at the Ember Room. You walked into their path by accident. An accident? I asked softly. He nodded. But after that night, I couldn't stay away. He came to stand behind me, his reflection beside mine in the glass dark. Familiar. Beautiful in a way that hurt to look at. You make me feel human again. Isabella, he said. And I don't know what to do with that. He sat beside me, shoulders heavy with years of silence. For a long time, I thought power was the only way to protect the things I loved. But power doesn't protect. It poisons. And I don't want it to touch you. Then stop, I whispered. His laugh was low. Bitter. It's not that simple. You could walk away. He turned to me, eyes soft but resolute. No. You could. Itzant. Silence filled the room, thick and fragile. Then he reached for my hand, threading his fingers through mine. You can walk away, Isabella, he said. But if you stay, I'll spend my life proving you're safe even from me. Something in his voice broke on that last word, and in that moment, I saw the man beneath the name, not the heir to a criminal empire. Not the dark protector the city feared, but a lonely soul who didn't know how to love, without breaking the world to do it. I cupped his face in my hands. Then stop trying to protect me, I said softly. Just love me. He closed his eyes like the word itself hurt. Then he kissed me slow this time. Gentle. Almost hesitant. Like he was afraid I'd disappear if he held too tight. The sound of the ocean filled the silence. Waves crashing like heartbeats against the shore. And somewhere between that kiss and the morning, I realized something terrifying and true. He wasn't my savior. He was my surrender. When dawn came, golden light slipped through the curtains. Warm against the cool air, Luciano stood in the kitchen, barefoot, cooking breakfast. The sight was almost ordinary. The clink of a pan, the smell of coffee, except nothing about us was ordinary. For the first time, he looked peaceful. No walls. No armor. No shadows. Just a man and a woman standing in the ruins of their own defenses. He handed me a cup of coffee, his fingers brushing mine. I don't know what tomorrow looks like, he said, but I know I'll never let it touch you. Luciano. He shook his head gently. Don't promise me forever. Just today? So I did. I took that moment, that fragile, borrowed morning, and held it like a secret I'd never tell, because I knew it couldn't last. Men like Luciano don't get happy endings. But for now, I had him. And maybe that was enough. Final voiceover. He was darkness wrapped in devotion. And somehow, he made me believe that even monsters deserve love, because love doesn't save us. It doesn't fix what's broken or erase what we've done. It just finds us in the wreckage and stays long enough to remind us we're still human. Soft piano fades into the sound of the ocean. And somewhere, in that sound, I swear, I heard him whisper mine. If you felt her story the way I did that ache between danger and devotion, don't forget to like this video to keep her voice alive. Tell me in the comments, would you stay for a man like Luciano? Or would you run before he could claim your heart? And if you want more dark, emotional love stories like this, subscribe now. Share it with someone who loves a little danger in their romance. And turn on the notification bell so you never miss what comes next. Because this is only the beginning.